I will be responding to the claim that the applicant made that genetically modified crops are agriculturally beneficial. She claimed that they increase or that they diminish the effects of agricultural pollution, and I have a lot of evidence to prove that they actually increase the use of pesticide and herbicide. Roundup-ready crops need 3 times as much the amount of pesticide, and Roundup Ready is described as crops that can survive being sprayed by weed killer. And so because they can survive being sprayed by pesticides, farmers treat their entire fields instead of just treating problematic areas. So a 16-year study published in Environmental Science Europe showed that 527 million pounds of herbicide since 1966 have been sprayed on these crops. And these numbers are so high because the emergence of super weeds resist herbicides, requiring farmers to use more and more toxic herbicides to try and reduce the amount of super weeds. Rootworms have also been shown to become more resistant to herbicides, and according to the Environmental Protection Agency. In addition, a French study found that glyphosate, a chemical found in Roundup, and herbicides like Roundup are toxic to human cells. The discovery led to Russia's suspension of Monsanto's crops and other GMOs being grown in their country. Glyphosate also has been found to cause liver damage in fish and aquatic life, since herbicide runoff from fields reaches not only groundwater, which we drink, but also the seawater. This water pollution has been found to affect even city dwellers whose urine has been found to contain this glyphosate, which has been determined by the World Health Organization to be a probable carcinogen. But since GMOs haven't been around for very long, we don't know the full effects that they might have on our bodies. The second claim that she had was that GMOs increase our yield of crop. However, a meeting of the House of Agricultural Committee, a professor of Penn State showed that average yields of GMO corn in the US are lower than other countries where GMO crops aren't grown. She showed that there's no significant difference between the yields of corn and soy in the US and non-genetically engineered varieties in Europe. Since corn and soybeans account for about 80% of the land area devoted to genetically engineered crops, this means that the land being devoted to growing GMOs can easily be converted to land being grown for organic crops that would lessen the herbicide-pesticide pollution while providing a food source that is significantly less questionable than that of the genetically engineered ones. The last claim that she provided was that GMOs enhance nutritional value of food. However, genetically modified soy has 12% less levels of cancer-fighting isoflavones, which are proven to be good for us. A big pro of the GMO crops is that they are biofortified, which means that crops can be enhanced to contain certain vitamins and nutrients, and they are fed to mostly third world countries, developing countries, to help lessen the effects of malnutrition. Malnourished people are hungry, but this is not because of a lack of biofortified crops, and rather lack of money to buy these crops and the land to access to land to be able to grow these crops on. And these crops that they're trying to get them to grow and eat cost a lot of money compared to the organic, adequate food source of normal food. Also, malnourished people are not usually deficient in just 1 or 2 nutrients, but many. Focusing on a crop that delivers only 2 nutrients is unhelpful because a balance of nutrients is required for proper absorption. And for example, in order to absorb vitamin A, you have to have proper levels of fat, and without enough fat, you won't be able to break down vitamin A and process it. So if you're only targeting vitamin A and trying to get that into people's bodies without having a sufficient level of fat, there will be no effect. Enriched foods could take a very long time to help other people. In addition, manipulating nutrients in food is seen as controversial because it's like you're medicating your food. Dosage is difficult to control, and certain nutrients may be needed by one person and are too high in another person. It's potentially dangerous to individuals' health. So, in conclusion, contrary to frequent claims, GMOs increase use of pesticide, don't increase yield, and are not a practical way to enhance nutritional value.
All right, structurally you set up things pretty clearly. The first point seems to be talking about the pesticide use, and you kind of explain how that all works. Some of the data that you had, about the millions of tons that we've used since 1966, that seems like it's pre-GMO. I know that there's an argument there that follows up based on super weeds and the Roundup issue. To me, that wasn't as clear as it needed to be, and if you're going to use the data from 1966, you ought to show that it's increased or that we've had a change since, that there was stability prior to the GMOs, something along those lines. It seems to me like it's just a little bit vague in the way that information is being utilized. The later evidence, though, talking about potential problems, you've got the French study on the links to carcinogens. I thought that was okay. Although the source citations are very vague, there's no source citation on this claim that they found these things in the urine of people, and the carcinogenic risk seems to be largely asserted on this particular point. Well, you did cite WHO on that, so that's, I think, that there's a connection. I'm not exactly sure causation is demonstrable there, but at least you've got some link that suggests a connection. On the yield argument, I thought you did pretty good. You started off citing some particular information. There's an explanation on it. It's okay. Then there's a follow-up claim about how organic crops could use this same fields and produce just as much. I think that's mostly an assertion, so you need some evidence on that particular point. The third point, one of the problems that happens, especially on the second point, is you're trying to let the evidence make the argument for you instead of you're making the argument and then presenting the evidence to support the claim. I think you need to do that a little bit more. The third point, you have information that you are citing but not giving us a source for. That the soy that's produced with GMOs is 12% less of the isoflavones that you're telling us about. I don't doubt that that's information that you found. I just don't know where you found it, and I don't know why I should be believing it without a source citation. Then there are a whole bunch of assertions about malnutrition being a result of lack of money and land. Again, that sounds like somebody's inference. If they're an authority, you should be quoting that authority. If you've got some data to support it, cite the data, but mostly it just seems like it's a claim at this point. The argument about nutritional variability, I think, is okay. Again, I do think you could use a little bit more information and citation on that. And then the whole thing about the varieties, they're medicating people, that's all asserted. I didn't have any reason to believe any of that's true. So if you've got a reason to believe that it's true, give us some grounds for doing so. I thought you had a good summary of your argument at the end, though, and it's a pretty effective way of finishing off. All right, thank you.